Joe, I know it's been kind of an emotional time with you, the loss of hair. You making it through okay? Just want to check in on you, see how you're feeling.
Yeah. It's well, the problem was like when I started camp, like really started sparring, my bangs were so in my face I had to cut them. So I had to make some bigger cuts because we couldn't do the Patrick Swayze. It wasn't going to work. So like I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm almost 40 and I still have it. I lived the first 30-something years of my life with a buzzed head, so we might as well at least show it a little respect. It's still here.
It's time to flaunt it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Talk about the situation here. Obviously, you've been in this game for as long as anybody. Replacement opponents, changes a week out. Does any of that stuff even impact you anymore?
No, not really. Yeah, I was actually just talking to some of my coaches a few weeks, like even prior to Mowgli pulling out. That like I have like 4 kind of goals in camp, and they're ranked. And it's like number 1 is stay healthy. Like I need to get to the fight in order to fight. So it's like stay healthy, be in shape, be sharp and prepared to fight my fight, and then at the bottom is prepare for a specific opponent, because time and time again, fighters get hurt, leading up to fights, or at least that's what they tell me, so, so I just focus on being the best version of myself that I can be in the time that I'm allotted, and, whatever happens, and, it's just the way it goes. Like I look at every fighter, in front of me. It's just an opportunity, So, it's a skill set. It's an opportunity to show off my skill set. Which means coming in on a week and a half. Like I'm appreciative that Alex stepped up. It's a tough game. We play, and sometimes you got to do stuff. Like take fights on a week and a half notice, and it's ballsy, and I like it and I appreciate it, and I'm excited for Saturday night.
Do you stress at all, like between like the fight falling out and getting another opponent? Does that like, am I going to waste this whole training camp, or does that even just roll off you? For me, it's the opportunities. I had the option of waiting. And just kind of rescheduling the fight, and I'm not about that. I said I wanted to get to UFC 300. I'm pretty certain at this point that my body can make it. Barring something catastrophic. I've said that if I make it there, I want it to be my last UFC fight, and I'm pretty good with that, but I don't want it to be like one more fight in between. I would like UFC 300 to be my 45th UFC fight. So that means I fight Saturday, fight in like July, then maybe November, March, and then July again, which is a good pace. The pace that I like to fight, that'll give me 3 fights this year, and then 2, next year, and I would be 100% content with that. But yeah, I'm not waiting for anybody. Maybe if it was like a legacy fight, right? Like maybe if it's one of those huge fights that's either going to put a lot more money in my bank account or actually do something for my legacy. But and that's nothing against Mowgli, but it's a fight that's like he's a dangerous dude, but so is everybody else. So I just wanted to fight, because I did have a long camp for this one. It was actually the longest I've ever had before a fight. It was like almost 4 months notice that I had for this one. It was like I fought in 3 main events and I didn't get that much time, so it brings the average up maybe to the typical like 8 weeks, right? Because there's been quite a few that were 2 weeks. So I put that date on the calendar, and I need to get there.
Yeah. It's weird as you talk about now, you talk about UFC 300, and you talked about it for a long time, but when you did talk about it before, it was like, that's way in the future. But the way you just lined it out, that's like, a couple more fights. Is that weird to start voicing it like the end is near, so to speak?
That gave me chills when you just said that. It is weird. It is weird. It's cool. It's scary as shit. I've been spoiled. Like, I've had the opportunity to be Peter Pan and like never grow up. I get to do what I love to do. And get paid to do it, and it's been awesome. It's been difficult, but it's been awesome. And like the day after UFC 300 that's like, oh shit, like what's next? I'm excited to find that next thing that I can put the level of commitment and passion towards. And enthusiasm towards, I hope that I've kind of found it. I'm looking to be able to have a couple different, irons in the fire, and like I said, I've been spoiled because I'm afforded the luxury of making my own schedule and having time and being able to do all these things, except for 5 days, 3 times a year, that I really have to kind of focus in and be somewhere. But other than that, I've been able to do what I need to do, or want to do. So I'm hoping to have some of that freedom, in my post MMA career. I understand that I've got 4 mouths, 4 kids to feed, and they're growing, and I might have to make some sacrifices, but I'm hoping to not have to, wear a suit and tie.
Yeah, I don't think
unless I want to.
Indeed. Well, likely some time before then to figure it out. I guess.
Yeah.
Just want to ask you about this fight on short notice like this. As long as you've been doing this, I mean, do you pour over film or try to put together a game plan, or is it just like, hey, I know what I do at this point?
My coaches dive in pretty deep. I mean, hell, my Muay Thai coach Amr, he's like, before we even had an opponent, Sean said, he's like, you might have to pull somebody new in. He's like, so Amr's like, I'm going to start looking at everybody in the Contender Series, and I was like, dude, just pump the brakes a little bit, like what are you doing? So they really dive in, and they give me a couple insights, for camp. Like in my mind's eye, I just want to be focused on my game plan and have those couple little things that we worked on, and but like I've seen Alex fight. He's been around long enough, and I watched a little tape on him, and like I only need a couple things. And the thing is we're professionals, and I don't expect him to show up as the same guy he was 6 months ago, because I know for a fact that like I'm going to throw out new stuff. Like if I have the opportunity, this old dog has plenty of tricks that people haven't seen, and I've made the mistake in the past of doing that, early on in my UFC career, and I've learned the lesson through watching some of my peers do that, where they prepare for somebody, months ago, and the guy changes, and I prepare to strike against the best strikers in the world, grapple against the best grapplers in the world, and push myself against the best athletes in the world, and that's what I'm going to do on Saturday night. And when he can't keep up in one of those areas, I'm going to capitalize.
I dig it. Last thing for me, kind of laid out the schedule, how you hope to see it all go. I guess between now and UFC 300, are there any names you hope to see or cities you hope to fight in? Or are there any things between now and 300 you hope to accomplish?
It would be cool to fight closer to home, maybe one more time. I really don't care where I fight. Sometimes the international stuff's a little bit of a pain in the ass, just dealing with time zones and all that stuff. But it would be cool to have, my family be a little bit closer and everybody get to come to a fight. The thing is I don't really like the New York Commission, and that seems to be where they're going.
So maybe we'll just scrap that one. Name-wise, I'd like to fight, another big name or two. I'm really intrigued. I know that Damon was looking for another fight before he hangs him up. I really enjoyed fighting at 170s, and I've got a ton of respect for Maya, and that's a fight that, that gets me pumped up. I know it's a super difficult challenge. He's fought my brother at 185, so he's a big dude, one of the best grapplers ever. But that's a cool fight to me, and other than that, there's a couple other names, a Matt Brown fight would be awesome. It would take a lot at 55, although, if I can perform well, it'd be, and I have a good night on Saturday, four wins in a row. If it's my way, it's another finish. I would love to fight Justin Gaethje too, just because it's a fight that we're both going to be walking funny the next day. Dustin out-violenced a lot of guys, but I don't remember him out-violencing me. I think I was very close to out-violencing him. He's the guy that had to go to the hospital and they threatened to cut his leg open, for crying out loud, which is the most obscene thing I've ever heard, to bring down the swelling. But a fight with Justin would be, that'd be awesome. But I know he's what, 3, so it's kind of a pipe dream.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask, I know you've talked a lot about this plan of, UFC 300 and who you'd like to fight and it being your 45th. Have you thought about what happens if that doesn't happen? Because, you're not in control of that necessarily. And have there been talks with the UFC that they, that they're on board with that? Or, what's the game plan going forward if that doesn't happen?
I think if I'm healthy, it'll happen. Like I said, at this point, and that's the thing is there are a lot of variables at play, but I've learned in life and in MMA that there are only 2 things that we can control, and that's our effort and our attitude. So if something comes up, I'm gonna control those 2 things, and that's all I can do, and how I look at that situation and as a hurdle to get over or whatever. I kind of let stuff just roll off my back. I'm not the type that gets too wound up in things. So if unfortunately it doesn't happen, okay, at this point, I have 40 fights in the UFC, and whether that ends up being, the record or somebody surpasses it, again, that's not up to me. But I know for a fact that in those 40 fights, I came to fight every time, and I fought as aggressively as I could, and to finish those fights. And I've left my mark. Today, even if Saturday doesn't happen, I've left my mark. So that's just the way it is. I don't dwell on it. I try to live in the moment and take whatever punches are thrown at me, and if something happens that can't happen, then we roll with it.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim. Kind of going off John's last question, if a MMA genie comes down and gives you one rematch, who are you fighting?
That's a deep. There's a lot of pathways we could go on that one, because it's is it a rematch today, with or is it we get to go back into the past and we get to refight the fight, right? Which makes it a lot more interesting. I don't know. The fight with Benson does bug me. I I mean, in certain senses of it, you know, like kind of with that last question, like me leaving my mark. I was fighting with a kidney infection and mono, and I put him in 6 legitimate submissions. I had his knee bending in the wrong direction, and my body gave out. And that's at a point athletically where I could rip over 500 pounds off the floor. There's not a person walking the planet that should have survived that knee bar if I was 100%, or that would have survived that knee bar at that point, because the time to defend it was gone. At that point, it was just me extending it, or his leg, you know, and his leg breaking, or me letting it go because my body couldn't exert any more energy, and the latter happened. You know, and I think that is kind of what has separated me from some of my peers is that even when I'm losing, I'm attacking. Even when I'm getting my ass kicked, I'm attacking. I'm not the guy that looks for, you know, the way out. I'm not the guy that fights conservatively. I'm the guy who is dangerous as long as the fight is going on. And so I'm proud of the way that I fought. I'm not happy with the way that I fought. Because like I knew we're going out to the fight, and I bent over to pick up my bottle of water, and I bent over like an old man, hand on my knee, like it's totally like protecting myself, and I was like, the fuck was that? You know, like I'm supposed to be the supple lion right now, you know, like I'm supposed to be ready for anything, and it's like I bent over like I was, you know, 85 years old, and that's when I kind of realized that maybe something was awry. But yeah, there are a couple other ones that like kind of bugged me a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I don't dwell on it. So yeah, trying to think of what, like really like, so today, like who would want to fight. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough because it's, you know, you kind of want to avenge some of the losses, but it's like really, you know, it's in the past. So I'm just focusing on what's in front of me.
What were the final tally votes for your hair?
The Patrick Swayze won, like hands down. I think I technically went with a little bit more like the MacGyver, you know, like not quite a mullet, but you know, it's kind of a classy mullet. I said it kind of looks like a little like Wayne Gretzky-ish, which I dig. But yeah, you know, I appreciate that people appreciate my hairdo.
It looks good. I was going to say, do you realize that you kind of look like Matt Damon as like with your hair, your beard? Like it's pretty kind of eerie.
Yeah, I look like everybody. I look like everybody. I've gotten a couple different ones. Like I got Patrick Cote standing next to Patrick Cote, who is probably 5 inches taller than me. One time training up at Parisi with Martin, it was right before Ricardo Almeida fought Patrick, and one of his buddies who's up from Canada, or was down from Canada, Brazilian guy, and he was walking out of the locker room, and I was walking in, and he like stops right in front of me, and he like gives me this like look, and he turns around, and I was walking in with Dan, and I was like, what the fuck was that about? You know, and we walk in there, and then it's like Ricardo and Frank Yeager and a couple other guys, they start busting out laughing, and they're like, he thought you were Patrick, and he came in here like, what the fuck is that guy doing here? You know, and it was like, do I really look like him? You know, there've been a couple. I got Matt Hughes once. Yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just like just the something about my features. You know, it just kind of blends in with a bunch of different people. So.
Absolutely. Patrick Cote, Matt Damon. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just fantastic. And then finally, so is your next career going to be curling? Is that?
It might be. It might be. USA Curling has not hit me back, though. I shared the videos a few times. I tagged them. Maybe it was like the off season and nobody's working the account. But you know, I smashed it, and you know, I haven't heard anything. I'll be like the John Daly of USA Curling if they want. We'll make it like, you know, bring in some flair.